All right, let's get down to the final part of breaking down this article. Again, you can access this just by going to Forbes. This one is written by senior attorney Adam Minsky, a great read. I like reading articles because there's a lot of information in these articles, okay? That'll help you get to even more stuff. And then for those who just want to just skim through things, these are great resources that you can go and look at. So we've already covered this first one. This broke down the court agreement between the American Federation of Teachers and the Department of Education, the lawsuit. I showed you guys how to access that lawsuit by going to Google, typing in AFT versus the Department of Education. That will get you directly to the lawsuit here on Court Listener. It just gives you all of the elements of that. It just gives you like a quick synopsis of that agreement. Also here, very good information here. We broke this down as well, talking about the changes because of the passing of the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. Go back to that second video, a lot of great information there. But this is where we're going to get to student loans heading toward default cliff. Let's talk about this. So it says last week, a group of Democratic lawmakers from the House and Senate submitted a letter to the Secretary of Education, Linda McMahon. We're going to look at that letter in just a second, expressing concerns that millions of federal student loans may be headed to default. The Department of Education acknowledged earlier this year that 10 million student loan borrowers could be in default by the end of 2025. We're at October 28th. Currently, more than 10% of borrowers are seriously delinquent on their student loans, according to the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. We write to express our concerns regarding the alarming rise in federal student loan delinquencies and defaults pushing millions of Americans toward financial ruin, wrote the lawmakers. Recent data reveals that this devastating increase in past due payments threatens not only individual borrowers, but the broader economy by suppressing consumer spending and locking families out of housing and other financial opportunities. The lawmakers blamed the Trump administration and Republican lawmakers for pushing student loan borrowers into default, saying Republican officials have reflectively, I think that's what it says, blocked any attempts to relieve the crisis of out of control higher education costs. They pointed to Republican-led states suing to block the SAVE plan and other Biden-era student loan forgiveness initiatives and mass firing of Department of Education staff under the Trump administration. Defaulting on federal student loans can have serious consequences, including collection costs, credit damage, and the denial of new federal student aid. In addition, time spent in default does not count towards student loan forgiveness. The federal government also has vast collection powers it can wield against defaulted federal student loan borrowers, including administrative waive garnishments and the seizure or offset of federal income and benefits, including Social Security. The Trump administration has restarted collection efforts against borrowers in default on their federal student loans. So collection efforts has already started. The lawmakers called on the Department of Education to create an interest-free temporary default prevention forbearance to protect student loan borrowers who cannot afford their monthly payments. The lawmakers also wrote that the temporary payment pause should count as progress toward loan forgiveness under both IDR and public service loan forgiveness so that students won't lose credit as a result of the pause. So far, the department has not responded. So let's go take a look at this letter. So if you go here and you just click submitted a letter, this is the letter here, okay? And this letter was sent to the Secretary of Education, Linda McMahon. And basically it says, Dear Secretary McMahon, we write to express our concerns regarding the alarming rise in federal student loan delinquencies and defaults, pushing millions of Americans toward financial ruin. They go on to talk about the data that this devastating increase in past due payments threatens not only individual borrowers, but the broader economy by suppressing consumer spending and locking families out of housing and other financial opportunities. Because yeah, if you're in default, your wages are being garnished. You have nothing, I mean, in a sense, to be out. You can't go out and put money into the economy. You don't have anything to spend, or you're at least going to be more selective about how you do your spending. Yet, rather than promote responsible solutions to the default cliff, the Trump administration and Republican leaders have done everything possible to block student debt relief and use the tools of the federal government to jack up costs for borrowers. We urge the Education Department to reverse course on its crusade against the 42 million Americans with federal student loan debt and instead work with Congress to avert this economic disaster. So they go on and break things down into sections. But in the article that we were reading, there were questions that that weren't answered. So here's where you can read the questions that these lawmakers are asking of the Department of Education that they have yet to respond to. Okay. All right. So this is where you get down to the questions and what they're asking them to do. The student loan default crisis is a significant threat to millions of American families and the broader economy. Congress and the administration have a responsibility to ensure that federal student loan programs, rather than undermine economic opportunity and stability, to better understand how our constituents are being affected by the default cliff, and to inform our legislative responsibilities regarding the federal student loan system and the functioning of ED. We request that you provide answers to the following questions no later than October 28th, and today is the 28th of October. What steps are they taking to monitor, project, and publicly report on the rise in federal student loan delinquencies in the fall? Does the department have an internal data on the number of borrowers who are delinquent or have defaulted on their student loans for each month of 2025? And it just goes more and more. So there's 19 questions here that they are asking the Department of Education to respond to. And like I said, today is the 28th. And so far we haven't seen anything. We'll see if anything comes within the next few days. Sometimes it takes a little bit for things to update, but we'll see if anything has been if they've gotten a response to this. Now I seen one before, I read one before where Senator Warren, she'd actually sent one to the Education Department, Secretary of Education, and there was a response that was sent back. So we'll see. But look at all these members of Congress that signed this. Okay. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. But like I said, reading these articles are they have good information. Not only that, it just allows you to kind of go and dive further into what's going on and get an understanding of everything. But I hope that this helps. And yeah, we'll stay connected and keep up with everything that is happening. And then we'll come back with some more updates. Like, follow, and share. I appreciate it. Thank you.